Every time you are doing something for your body, you do one of two things. You are either adding value and nourishing it, or you are adding inflammation and contributing to challenges. In a world full of distraction, stimulation, and chaos, what you choose for yourself to stay focused, calm, and grounded is absolutely crucial. Your body needs to know immediately that you bring support, love, and nurturing. If you make it easy for the body to understand why it should in turn work with you and support your life instead of with the thousands of chaotic input it receives from outside, then it is far more likely to stay vibrant, balanced, and full of energy. You can get from disease to health more quickly. Through our episodes, you get to understand what you can do to feel your very best and how you can do more of what is naturally suited to your body from the time you wake up until the time you go to bed and how you sleep. When you understand how to choose the right protocols to do this and how you can bring these practices into your day, it relieves you of the anxiety of which protocols to choose and how to implement them sequentially. You might be hearing about Marma tapping for the very first time, so take a good listen from start to finish. My guest on episode number 119, Kael Balizer, has maintained a successful practice as a natural therapeutic specialist and Ayurvedic practitioner, serving hundreds of clients over the past 20 years. She is the founder of Life in Balance Ayurvedic Rejuvenation Center on Vashon. Her work focuses on the integral connection between the body, mind, and emotions. In the last 10 years, she has integrated EFT into her practice, finding it most effectively facilitates physical and emotional healing by getting at the deep emotional roots of the disease. She's committed to bringing her clients to the place of experiencing love and acceptance for themselves and living joyfully, awake and fulfilled in the difference they make in their families and within the world. Kael lives on Vashon Island with her husband and her 2 children. Take a listen to episode on Marma tapping. Hey everyone, I'm Deepa, Light Functional Medicine Practitioner, author and yogini, and you're listening to the Sleep Whisperer podcast, the only sleep podcast with conversations and meditations. I'm on a mission to share profoundly insightful sleep conversations with global visionaries that merge together functional medicine and ancient wisdom. Breathe in bliss through weekly guided meditations and let yourself enter the land of dreams. Together, let's unravel the pieces, get to the roots, and understand the right tools to transform your sleep completely. Through this podcast, I want you to dream the best version of yourself. It's time to regain hope and begin your sleep journey. Kael, it's a pleasure to have you, and I always enjoy the conversations. Anything to do with Ayurveda, all the more to do with women speaking Ayurveda, which has a very sensitive touch to it. And today we are discussing an interesting subject which I don't think many people would have heard about, which is Marmani and sleep. And of course, you'll take us through what Marma is and all of that. And also, how do emotions play a role in the context of Ayurveda and how does that express in each dosha. And we've done several Ayurvedic episodes from different perspectives. They've all been very, very popular, but we've never spoken about this subject. And of course, as I mentioned to you before we started to do the conversation, you've got this Vata Pitta energy, which usually plays out in poor sleep in many people. So how was your own sleep having this kind of constitution?
Deepa, it's good to be here. Thank you. And yeah, it's so perceptive of you to notice my constitutional tendencies because yeah, with Vata, with the air and ether qualities and that Pitta kind of drive, which I definitely have, like that movement and so I definitely experienced my sleep challenges throughout time. So that's what's made it so kind of dear to me and so important in terms of my work with other women, because I see it a lot, with women who are mothers and doing a lot and giving a lot to others and their children and oftentimes neglect themselves. And so, for me, I can remember the first night that I didn't sleep. And I was pregnant with my second child, and I was really frustrated with my husband because he was working these really long hours, and I wanted to know that he was going to take nights off when our baby came. And I remember that night I was so upset. We were yelling at each other. He slept on the couch. I went to bed and I just laid there with just fuming all night, and I could not sleep. I was still awake when the sun came up in the morning. And then it was from that point that I started, my sleep became more precarious. So as we're talking about the emotional aspect of sleep, there was definitely a moment in time where my nervous system got dysregulated from all of that emotion that I then started suppressing to survive being a mother with two kids, with my husband working 90 hours a week, and with my own tendencies to go and do, despite what was going on. And so really in that process, I got very disconnected from myself, disconnected from my own emotions. And when I finally started learning about Marma tapping, or it's also called EFT, I want to honor the origins, but because I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner, I match it with the Marma points, which are similar to the Chinese acupressure points. And but when I learned about that, I couldn't even really acknowledge the emotions I was having. I kept justifying them, or, just couldn't really, and definitely was far out of distance from loving and accepting myself at that point in time. But it really was the Ayurveda, the wisdom of Ayurveda, and using the tapping and the Marma points that started to slowly bring me back to myself and back to my sleep and my health. And so that's what I share with women, predominantly work with women. I work with some men, but mostly women is where I feel passionate to support.
Takes one Vata Pitta to recognize another one. The go and the restless. And when you describe the fuming at night and unable to sleep, I've been there so many times, that whole fiery energy in the night. And okay. So what do you feel are the biggest reasons for sleep issues today? And do some doshas have more predisposition towards sleep issues because of the certain ways these emotions play out in the three doshas? That would be great for us to get started, especially since you described that fiery, angry state where you were just lying awake, and that's so typical for the Pitta. And if we could just go a little bit into each of these doshas in terms of how does emotion play out, and by that disruption, when we go off balance, how do the emotions play out in a way where we're ruining our sleep?
Yeah. So I definitely see in myself and working with so many women around sleep that, stress, anxiety, unprocessed, undigested emotions are really at the root. And they might, the presenting might manifest as hormonal issues or, other things that might show up, blood sugar issues, all of these things. But a lot of times the underlying, where the trigger was around the emotional aspect, or just even the day-to-day, right? The things that we push through in our day or ignore. And then the first time we actually stop, at the end of the day, is when we lay down to sleep. And so when we get quiet enough, what's right there is all the unprocessed, maybe emotions from our day, the things that we, or what our boss said, or what our husband said. And, we're there going over it in our mind. Our nervous system never had a chance to really digest the emotions coming up. And when I say digest in terms of Ayurveda, like we think of the Sanskrit word for toxins in the body, like undigested food in our digestive system is called ama. And so emotions that we haven't been able to fully process become mental, emotional ama in our body. And it starts to disrupt our whole functioning and flow of energy and information in our channels and in our system of our body. So
and hold on, Kael, before we actually go into these doshas, you mentioned that, we've got these undigested emotions, and therefore, it could show up as hormonal issues or blood sugar dysregulation. So is it always that physiology follows psychology, or is it also the other way around?
Yeah, what a great question. I think it can be both directions. But if there's the physiological effect first, you got to wonder if there's not an emotional component to that as well, because now it's common knowledge. Ayurveda is known for 5,000 years that we're affected by our emotions. We can't separate the body from the mind, so it's really doesn't even make sense to talk about them as separate entities, because they go together. The emotions are the flow of energy through the physical body. And the mind is crystallized body, you could say. So they're really intertwined. It's hard to separate them. But, if you've been dealing with any issue for a certain amount of time, the emotional aspect definitely comes into play.
Yeah,
as you know, from laying there not sleeping, right?
Yes. So how does this actually show up when we say dysregulated emotions? If we are out of balance, how does this show up in vata bodies, pitta bodies, kapha bodies? Is it that only some constitutions get their sleep impacted when they're off balance in these emotions? Is it all of them? Does that sleep dysregulation look different in each of those?
Yeah. So the first one is the vata, right? Vata is air and ether. So you tend to have the qualities of being more mobile. The mind is more going and mobile. So I would say that vata is predominant. They're also run lighter in weight and kind of have their energy runs up here. So they tend to sleep very light. So they get disrupted more easily. And they also, the vata is governed by the nervous system. So the nervous system is what gets disrupted a lot of times with sleep. So the vata constitution seems to be most susceptible. And then pitta as well. Pitta is the fire and heat and kind of passion, but also can be that anger we talked about, frustration, and those kind of emotions. So the pitta might get really focused on one thought and not be able to let it go. So they stay awake. Right?
You're just describing me completely.
Am I? Yeah. And, and then it can affect also the hormones, because the hormones are related to pitta, and the liver, the gallbladder, and the liver as well can keep us up at night if it's overtaxed and needs to process, and and it's churning all these fiery emotions in our body. And just to go back to vata, so like pitta can get stuck on one thought. The pitta goes around and around. It can just jump from thought to thought to thought to thought. And it just has a hard time letting it go, because of that mobile quality. And even kapha can get disrupted so sometimes a kapha constitutional body might have more of a vata imbalance in the mind. But also kapha sleep imbalances might look like oversleeping, or even if they get enough sleep, they still wake up heavy, groggy, tired. They never feel fully energized or rested.
Too sluggish and just kind of stuck is what you seem to describe. Yeah.
Right. And exactly. They get they get stuck in a thought, or more tendency towards that heavy depression or kind of doom aspect.
Yes, absolutely. So maybe we could talk about what are actually marmas, because we say this a lot, but truly what are marmas, and how can everyone understand where marmas are in their body, how many marmas are there? So if we can just get into describing these before we actually look at how can we use this to support ourselves. And I know that you use Marma tapping to help your clients. So you could probably describe a little bit about how you help your clients as well.
Okay. Well, marmas are vital energy points, and they're located on the surface of the body. And so, but Ayurveda doesn't necessarily look at our bodies as a stable, solid structure, but more of a flow of energy. So these marmas, as they access the outside of the body, create flow through the nervous system, through the energy channels of the body. But so it's kind of, how do I want it? It's very interesting and very sometimes kind of hard to describe, because it's not the way that we look at things in the West. I mean, you have more concept there, but they're openings to the channels of consciousness and energy and information in our body. So we're directly bridging that link. When we access the marmas, we're bridging the link between the energy and emotional body to the physical body. So it's a direct connection. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So it's just a way for us to actually understand the subtle body and the physical body and where they actually come together. So how many marmas are there in a body? And is it the same for everybody? Is it the same for every dosha?
Well, different resources say different things, but maybe 107, but some people say 108, the eighth being the mind. But yeah, and it's the same for everybody, and each of the marmas are used for different aspects of healing the body. So, but the marmas that I use in the tapping, so I also do abhyanga in my practice and panchakarma, and so the full oil massage, and we access all the marmas at that point. But when I do the tapping just for the emotions, they're mostly in the head and the chest and on the hands. So there's about 10 marmas that we use that are very powerful for the emotional body, and also they're easy to access.
And I'm sure we'll go into all of that when you actually take us through how to use tapping on marma points later, and we can come to that. And how are marmas? You described it as just this subtle area where they do connect to our mind as well. How are marmas connected to our mind, and how does that play out?
Yeah, so in Ayurveda, we look at there's 14 different channels in the body, or pathways that we can access, and the marma is connected to the pathway called Mano Vahashrotis, which is the channel or pathway of the mind. And it's very interesting, because when we think of the mind, we think, where do you think the mind should be located? Right? In the head or in the brain. But actually, the root of, in Ayurveda, the root of the mind is in the heart. And it also runs through the passageway of that channel is through the entire nervous system. So Majja Dhatu, the nervous tissue of the body. So it actually connects to every part of our system, physically and energetically. And then the point where you can access it, the opening basically externally, is through our sense organs and the marma points. So am I answering your question?
Yes, perfectly. And in fact, it got me thinking a little bit, because I was going to ask you, is there any disturbance to marmas when we are off balance?
Yeah, good question. So yeah, they can be tender, they could be sore, they could be numb. Yeah, depending on what's going on. So I'll notice that a lot of times, or even when people, when I'm working on people's bodies, there might be points that are particularly tender. And that's an indicator that there's a disturbance, an emotional, physical disturbance in that channel of the body. Some people I've been tapping with, they're like, oh, this is so uncomfortable to touch this spot. So we don't always do, there's lots of ways to access the Marma point. So you can just touch or hold the point. And because it's an energetic system as well, you can even just imagine. So if I have people doing the Marma points at night, they can just imagine the points and that'll affect them as well.
And Kael, when you said they can imagine the points, does that then depend on how sensitive someone is? Because, a lot of times, even in the parlance of yoga, we're talking about how it takes people. Sometimes people can connect more to the physical side, and until they get a little more sensitive, then they get in tune with the pranic flow and the subtler aspects of. So then is that impacted when someone is not able to connect to that highly sensitive, intuitive area? In which case would you then suggest the physical touch? And I think what I also wanted to ask you, because you said if Marma points are sore or numb, then they feel uncomfortable to tap, and then in which case you could just touch. And I think that really gives a lot of openness for us to work with someone, because most people may be in that state where they've got these tender points. So then the subtle aspects of touch, for me, I think what I'm trying to say is that for me, it feels if someone is in that state where there's imbalance and it's tender, they may not quite be able to visualize it so beautifully, in which case, and they cannot either tap because that's too much of a physical touch. So that in between area, which is just a gentle touch, seems the perfect one to me for someone who might be off balance. Am I describing it well?
Yeah, absolutely, Deepa. Some people, however it feels comfortable for you. And I mean, I'm talking more today about the tapping, but because that's a lot of how I access the emotional aspects to support sleep. But I also, like I said, we do the Abhyanga and we do other Marma systems. So yeah, and then sometimes like rotating the Marma either to the left to cool the channel or to heat up the channel. So to stimulate or to calm down the channel that it's connected to.
Hold on, I'm going to stop you because that was very, very insightful. So is it different rotating to the left and to the right? And which one is calming down? Which one is activating?
Yeah, so to the left is calming and to the right is activating.
So then am I to assume or ask you to clarify that someone who is imbalanced in Vata would need a left move, someone with Kapha would need a right move, or is that too much to summarize that way?
Well, in general, that would be an easy way to go about it, but it might depend on the channel and what was happening in the body. So definitely, if we're talking about the Manovahashrotas, the channel of the mind, we definitely want to do more calming for the Pitta, but probably for the Vata too. And then for Kapha, we want to heat it up and stimulate it. Yeah, but if it's something like, like the digestion or connected to the liver, we might want to, for Pitta, cool that down, whereas someone else might need a little more stimulation or support there, a little more heat.
Beautiful. I mean, that for me was a really profound takeaway, because I've never heard anyone talking about this. It's usually just about stimulating. It's never about the subtler aspects. And that was really interesting to me. So how do you actually work with clients accessing these points? And is it your knowledge, your experience, or your intuition which guides you in understanding what's going on in these Marma points of each person?
Well, yeah, it depends how I'm working with the person. So if if we're doing massage and I'm accessing like that through oil, through essential oils, touching the points, then it's more of a feeling. One, I know the client's constitution. That's always where I start, where it's their individual constitution. And then yeah, it's more after touching bodies and working with Ayurveda for the last 20 years, I can definitely feel when a Marma point needs a little more pressure, a little less, or when it needs more stimulation or activation, or just needs more space. And I can feel that pranic flow. I love you said that pranic flow, because that prana, that life force, right, that's our breath, that's the energy and intelligence that moves through our body, this comes from those Marma points. And we also activate the Agni, the fire, that can go out and can clear those channels as we touch them. So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question. Yes. It depends if I'm doing massage or if we're doing the tapping, then in general, we're just lightly tapping at the level that feels comfortable for them. And like I said, if it's not comfortable to tap, they might just hold the points.
Yeah. That's beautiful, Kael. And give us an example of how a client might have actually used Marma tapping to help themselves.
Yeah, so I do individual sessions with clients, and so I guide them through it. But what I love about Marma tapping as well is that people can do it for themselves. So in sessions with me, they learn the points, they learn how to do it. But of course, as we work together and having a practitioner there with you, it's easier to navigate and go deeper into the process. So yeah, so starting out, we might look at what's going on for the client, or if there's an emotion coming up. Do you want me to tell you how it looks, or give you an example of a benefit?
Yeah, maybe walk us through a client without mentioning any names, as to
of course,
we can actually connect to that.
Yeah. So I'll think of my client yesterday, and we just started, and I usually just have people start tapping on the side of the hand, or on the wrist point, or this kakshadara on the chest, this soft tissue point, which opens up the lungs and the breath and awareness. And so they just start there, and it kind of tunes us into what's going on for us. So she started tuning in, and then she was dealing with the issue. She said, "Ooh, there's a lot of shame coming up." And so I actually, this kind of related. I was thinking about her because we often, what happens with these channels, they get blocked from these emotions, like what happened with me, but we don't want to look at the emotions. So we just stuff them all in there. It's like, so I said, well, what would it be like to tap on and sit with the shame? She said, well, I'd rather guzzle gasoline than sit with the shame, because it's like we do everything we can, right, to distract ourselves, to whatever it is, through food, through staying busy, through scrolling on Facebook, to not feel the emotions that are there. So as we access the Marmas, we're really giving ourselves, and when I'm with clients, I'm giving them an opportunity to sit with the emotions that are coming up and to digest them. So we just started exactly where she was at. We started tapping, and the setup statement sounds like, even though. So we're kind of vacillating between, this is how I feel, and even though I'd rather guzzle gasoline than sit with my shame. And then the end statement is, I deeply and completely accept myself. So it's really a process too of beginning to bring compassion to whatever we're dealing with. So this, acceptance and love for ourselves. Yeah.
And I know you just described the shoulder, and I would love for us to spend a little time talking about what Marma points you use in Marma tapping, and what are some of the benefits of each of these points.
Okay. Yeah, and by the way, you don't have to know the Marma points. You don't have to know the names. All you have to do is know the location to get the benefit from it. But it's fun to know. It's fun to know
Yes.
what, what they are. So the first point, a lot of times if you look up online EFT, you'll see tapping on the side of the hand. But the other one that we can use, which is Ayurvedic, is here on the chest. It's right in the soft tissue right below the collarbone, and it can be on either side. The marmas run either side, so you can do one or both. And so you just, that point right there, it's called Kakshadara Marma, and it increases our lung capacity, the flow of prana, so our life force and our breath. And our lungs hold a lot of grief. So a lot of times we're tapping into that grief that might be in the system. So that's another thing, Deepa, right? Is that each of the organs in Ayurveda
Yes.
are known to hold different emotions.
And I think that's really where all health lies, because most people are holding on to some of these emotions, be it grief, be it frustration, betrayal, so many things.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's not even just our day to day. There's also, um, things that happen in our childhood, trauma, PTSD. All of these things can impact our sleep. Yeah. Yeah. So the next point is the eyebrow point, and it's here between the brows. It's called Bru Marma. So it's right where the eyebrows come together, right here. But I like to also hit Ajna Marma, which is the third eye point. So if you just take 3 fingers, you can access both sides and the middle, that middle point. And this one relieves suppressed emotions in the form of tears. It's indicated, which is interesting. Whenever I start tapping, I start watering. So it's great. So we're accessing that so that emotion can start to release, and it's also indicated specifically for insomnia, and headaches, circulation to the head and the brain. So all of that.
So all of the lymphatic system, which is really useful even for anxiety, depression, probably all of that.
Headaches, yeah, all of these do touch on all of this. And then the next time is the side of the eye, right here at the bone there of the eye. And you can just gently tap there or hold that point, and that's called Ashru. Ashru Agra Marma. See, I have to even check because I don't remember necessarily. Some of them I do, but you don't have to know the names to get the benefit from them. And this relieves stress, it calms the mind, and it balances emotions. So the next one is under the eye, right here on the zygomatic bone. And this one can be kind of tender for people or vulnerable. I find for myself, I just like to hold this point, and it's under the eye. It releases suppressed emotions. It improves the kidney and adrenal functions, which can be a big indicator for insomnia, right? It also calms anxiety and chronic indigestion. Yeah. And then this one under the nose, Oshtamarma. And this one is for the nervous system. It improves cerebral circulation, concentration, mental alertness, ADHD. And this is one of my go-to marmas just to hold. Have you ever had where you have a twitching in your eye?
Yes,
Deepa?
quite frequently. In fact, I have it always.
Oh, really?
Yes. But my husband has always told me that if in women your left eye is twitching, it's a sign of good things to come. And if it's the right eye twitching, then it's be prepared for some unfortunate news, and vice versa for men. And he's also quite knowledgeable about Marma. He lived in a Himalayan cave for 2 years, and so he would always tell me when my left eye twitches that some good news is going to come.
I love that. I love that interpretation. That's awesome. I hadn't heard that. So, but in Ayurveda, it says that it's the Vata, the mobile quality of Vata is in the neuromuscular juncture there. So even just taking that one point and holding the top and bottom of that Marma point at the lip right here, and just holding that for a couple minutes, can stop the twitching.
Oh, lovely, lovely.
And
I think I'm going to try that next time.
Yeah. Whenever I feel that twitching, I'm like, oh, I got to slow down. I got to stop. And it's like time for Shavasana. Hold that point, breathe.
But I think, Kael, for me, this sign that I need to slow down comes all through the day. And I'm always pushing.
Yeah. And we'll talk about what, how we can use this too for that. Actually, our core issues, and I can relate to that, Deepa, is part of why I got myself into that situation, is that that drive to push and not listening to my body saying, I'm tired, I need to slow down, I need to stop, I need to listen.
However, now what I do, Kael, is by 4 or 5 in the evening, I switch off everything. Nobody can reach me, no phones, no message, no email. And I go from that go to doing absolutely nothing. So I'll just stroll around the farm, I'll have a lazy dinner. My switching off has now become profound as well. So for the next 10 hours, I'm just dead to the world. No one can get access to me and I can't access them.
I love that, Deepa. That sounds like beautiful self-care. Yeah, and that Pitta constitution, right? That fire can go. But yeah, if they don't recharge, then they burn out, right? Yeah. Yes. And then the next Marma point is here at the chin. It's called Hanu Marma. It's right at the cleft of the chin. And this Marma relieves stress, unresolved emotions, TMJ, pain in the jaw, and hormonal imbalances. Right. So sometimes with the hormonal balances, right, we'll get a lot of acne in this area. So this is a good point to balance, that. And then my favorite point is here at the collarbones. And it's Jatru Marma. So it's right at the midpoint of the collarbones. And then in Ayurveda too, there's a point here in the middle that you can access. So sometimes I'll tap that one as well. So the side. And this Marma is for immunity. It stimulates, enhances communication, and it releases suppressed emotions. Yeah. And then the next one is under the arm. So if you just reach around your body and you tap kind of where your bra strap is, there on the side of the body, or you can do both sides, like giving yourself a gentle hug, a bear hug. And this one is Stanya Marma, and it helps with breast circulation, again with the lungs.
Very important. And in fact, I think there's a huge connection between improving that circulation and supporting prevention of breast cancer. And I think that's very, very key for women's health.
Yeah, so that lymphatic circulation is helped there. And then the next one, there's actually three points on the head. And one, if you just took a hand like this at the bridge of your nose and you put the middle finger back, you'll directly at the top of your head, you'll land on Brahmarandra. These are very important for concentration, focus, the brain, headaches, neurological things, all emotional disturbances can be helped with this. And then also there's that one. And then you have 2 fingers forward. There's Adipati. No, is that one? Oh, yeah, Adipati. And then Shivarandra is about 2 fingers back, and there's a little indention there. But all of these, so you can just take a couple hands and gently tap around all this, or just place a hand. Sometimes the top of the head can feel kind of vulnerable energy-wise. So some people just want to put a hand up there.
And I just invert myself into a headstand and feel the pressure on that point.
There you go, right? And yoga is a great way to access the Marma points.
I was just going to ask you that, because so many of the yoga poses are linked to bringing certain stimulation to some of those points. I'm sure that's a deep connection as well.
Yeah, absolutely. At the Ayurvedic Institute, where I went to school and studied with Dr. Vasant Lad, that was part of the training there, was learning the yoga with the Marma. So
lovely. We must do another episode on yoga poses. And
okay, well, that won't be with me, but somebody else. Yeah, but that would be a great topic, because it definitely.
Yeah.
But I love.
So is there anything you missed, Kael, with the Marma points?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Actually, I did. Two of my favorite points, and it's here under the breasts on the rib cage. And you can take one hand in the middle, or you can take hands on the side and just tap on the rib cage there, or hold those points. And they're for the liver and spleen. So the right side for the liver and the left side for the spleen. So really important for that anger, frustration, and attachment, and kind of. Yeah.
I'm just thinking that I would love for you to actually take us through a quick 10-minute guided tapping session. But before we do that, we'll just also wind up this conversation, and then people can access that as a separate guided session. So where can people find you, and how can they learn more? I know you got some resources for sleep itself. Is there any final words you want to have with us as a conversation before we get to that? So just we'll conclude this episode with a conversation.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to leave people with something, even just from our work together, that they can do to help their sleep. And so one thing that I like to do is doing these Marma points, either tapping or holding them or imagining as you lay down to bed, and just at each point. So I call it gratitude tapping. So you just think of a gratitude, something you appreciate at each point, and often that'll just put me to sleep, and it puts you to sleep in a good space, right? And you can also do that when you wake up in the middle of the night. If you wake up and you can't get back to sleep, you can tap on whatever the mind's churning on, or just tap on, even though I can't sleep, because sometimes there's just the frustration of not being able to sleep.
Yes, huge.
So, yeah, so just acknowledging what you're experiencing. I can't sleep and I'm frustrated, and I accept myself anyway, and or even just, I'm going to hand all this over, and I'm going to let my body relax right now, because we can find, even if we can't get into a deep sleep, we can calm our system down enough to relax, and that's very helpful, even if we're not able to sleep. But a lot of times people I've worked with have found that that's incredibly effective for getting back to sleep.
Maybe you could just take us through that when we do the guided short session on gratitude.
That's a good idea. I like that.
So where can people find you before we close this session?
My website is ayurvedaseattle.com. And so that's good. You can also find me on Facebook.
And we'll attach all the links.
Life and Balance with Kael. It'll be attached. And on my website, you'll find my opt-in offer to receive my newsletter, get information. I've written an ebook, which is the Ayurvedic path to luxurious sleep. So it talks about this aspect, the emotional, but also the diet. Beautiful. Yeah, in different ways that we can.
I'm going to grab that resource after we speak.
Okay, good.
Okay, so Kael, what we'll do is we won't pause the recording. We'll consider that this conversation's over, so we'll release this as one episode. Now what we'll do is just a 10-minute guided tapping session. So imagine that someone cannot see you. I'm not going to speak. I'm going to mute myself. So you can close your eyes if you want to. Just imagine you're guiding someone through a session.
Okay, let me think.
Tell me when.
One.
Take your time.
Give me a minute, because I do better when I'm actually guiding someone than making it up. But I can guide myself.
Yeah, so I will mute myself, and you can just close your eyes, and whenever you want, you can get started, because I'm not.
And are they going to be able to see my body?
No. So
they won't be able to see the points. So I need to say them.
It's an audio so that they can play at night and actually be guided by you.
Okay, we could also give them include a document that shows the points.
Yeah. We can do that so that they've got clarity and then they can reuse your recording whenever they want. But just imagine that no one can see you. You can, don't ask me, can I start now? I'm going to mute myself. Whenever you're in the zone, go for it. I'm not going to speak at all until you're done.
Okay. Even though I can't sleep and my mind is going around and around, I deeply and completely accept myself. And I give myself permission to relax now. Even though I'm laying here awake and I can't sleep, and my mind is focused on all these things from the day, I deeply and completely accept myself. And I want to give myself permission to go to sleep now. So we're just rubbing the point on the chest or on the side of the hand. We do it 3 times for the setup. Even though I can't sleep, my mind is just going and going. I want to give myself permission to relax now. And tapping the top of the head. I can't sleep. And my mind is just going and going. Tapping between the brows. I wonder if I could let this go just a little. I wonder if I could hand this over and handle it in the morning. Side of eye. I want to give myself permission to relax and let my body go back into a deep rest. Under the eye. I can't seem to get to sleep. And my mind is just going around. And that's just where I'm at right now. Under the nose. And I want to give myself permission to relax anyway. On the chin. I don't need to figure out everything right now. I can just hand this over and allow myself to deeply relax. Tapping under the collarbones. It's so frustrating when I can't sleep and I'm laying here awake. And I acknowledge how I feel. And then under the arm, just giving myself permission to relax anyway. And then tapping the points on the rib cage under the breast. I deeply and completely accept myself. And I accept where I'm at right now. Good. And then just taking a deep breath. And a full exhalation. And then you can do a couple more rounds, just starting on the side of the hand or the chest point. And just noticing what's present now. So if there's any emotion present, or maybe you're feeling more relaxed, you can start to tap that in. Yeah. Even though I'm still not sleeping, I feel a little bit more relaxed, and that feels good. And I deeply and completely accept myself, and I honor where I'm at right now. So again, you can just set that up a few times, tapping through the points again, or you can just tap through the points and breathe and just give your body permission to relax. It's okay to relax now. I'm giving myself permission to let go of these thoughts. Or if there's a thought that's really up, just keep tapping on that thought, so that your nervous system can start to resolve it a little bit. Yeah, wishing you deep, restful sleep.
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed the show. Just a reminder that this podcast is for information purposes only. This is not a substitute for professional care by a doctor or otherwise qualified health professional. This information is provided on the understanding that it does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services. If you are looking for personal help on your health journey, do seek out a medical practitioner. Please do make your own healthcare decisions based upon your research and in partnership with your doctor or otherwise qualified healthcare professional. It is in no way intended as medical advice as a substitute for medical counseling or as treatment or cure for any particular health condition. Be sure to always work directly with a qualified health practitioner before making any changes to your diet or lifestyle that may feel out of your realm of comfort or understanding. If you are looking for an allied functional medicine practitioner, do seek out more information on www.phytothrive.com. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed the show. Just a reminder that this podcast is for information purposes only. This is not a substitute for professional care by a doctor or otherwise qualified health professional. This information is provided on the understanding that it does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services. If you are looking for personal help on your health journey, do seek out a medical practitioner. Please do make your own healthcare decisions based upon your research and in partnership with your doctor or otherwise qualified healthcare professional. It is in no way intended as medical advice as a substitute for medical counseling or as treatment or cure for any particular health condition. Be sure to always work directly with a qualified health practitioner before making any changes to your diet or lifestyle that may feel out of your realm of comfort or understanding. If you are looking for an allied functional medicine practitioner, do seek out more information on www.phytothrive.com.